Okay. Wow. Whew. I don't know. I've been to church. There's a healing going on. That's incredible and beautiful. Let's give Shelley and Christopher Murphy and Brian the threesome. Woo! I got teary-eyed and everything. I was like, oh, it's fogging up and whew. They're singing today and Shelley picked these out, but she's like, how about this song and this song? I was like, you picked two of my favorite songs of all time, so beautiful. So of course we're here to be about that which is the power of love, one of the 12 powers that Charles Fillmore looked at as he studied the disciple, and John, the beloved disciple, was the expression of that power of love that we all have that may be dormant on some level. And today's talk title is called The Heart of the Matter. And I'm beginning with a story from a book that I highly recommend called Love for No Reason. I gave a talk at the beginning of this month on that. 7 Steps to Creating a Life of Unconditional Love by Marcy Shimoff, who is also the co-author of the Soup for the Soul books as well. So this is a story about Daniel. Daniel was 13, and his entire 8th grade class was scheduled to go to their big end-of-the-year outing to Washington, D.C. Daniel and his friends were super excited and really looking forward to it. The plane ride, the cool hotel with the swimming pool, and taking pictures with the girls on the Capitol Mall was all they talked about for weeks. 2 nights before the trip, his mom attended a parents' meeting where the travel itineraries were distributed and the hotel roommate assignments were given. She listened to hear which of Daniel's friends he'd get to be rooming with, and she was confused when all the names had been called, but his hadn't been called. So as she was about to point out that he'd been left off the list, the teacher added, oh, and Daniel Pono will be with Ricky in Ricky's aid. My heart sank. Daniel's assigned roommate was an autistic boy and his aide, a man in his early 30s. My first thought was, Daniel's going to feel and be left out of all the really cool things all his buddies are planning, and how am I going to break the news to him? Well, she considered herself to be a loving and compassionate person, but this was tough. She was so afraid that he would be disappointed by this roommate assignment. She said, I was in mother bear mode, and I was determined if he was disappointed that I was going to speak to the school and talk to them and get something different arrangement so he can be with his buddies and really have the time that he was so looking forward to. So when she got home from the meeting, she told Daniel about the itinerary, and finally she came to the point where she said, Daniel, the roommates were announced tonight, and I want you to know that if you're really upset, I'd be happy to go to school tomorrow and talk to them and get a different arrangement. He looked at me quizzically for a moment, not sure if I was kidding him, and then said simply, Mom, they didn't put me with Ricky. I asked to be with Ricky. I knew if I wasn't with him, he'd get left out. And you know, Mom, it's his 8th grade class trip, too. I get the God bumps when I read this. She looked at Daniel, and her heart was just swelled up with proudness and just couldn't believe that he was that giving, that loving, that caring. I wonder, would the other boys have done the same, or would they have been more like a typical boy saying, no, I just want to be with my buddies so we can do all the things we plan to do. But Daniel was different. And the question is, what made Daniel different? What made him have that? Well, it goes to he had an open heart. He had an open heart. And Marcy says, it's the openness of a person's heart. When you live with an open heart, you effortlessly radiate love because the channel connecting you to the love at your core is unobstructed. You're able to give and receive love freely and naturally as you breathe in. Kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude become second nature, and hostility, hurt, indifference, and loneliness dissolve. If the heart center isn't open, the love cannot flow. We have to clear away the blocks from that heart. Now, most of you probably know what chakras are, yes? Energy centers in the body. Well, we're speaking of the heart, and that is speaking to that area of the chest, of the heart chakra. And the chest area includes our lungs, our heart, our ribs, our breasts, but it also extends down our arms and into our hands. Because you think about your hands and your arms. We use our hands and arms coming stretched out from that which is our heart center for hugging, for touching, for helping hands, for giving applause. This is all coming from the heart chakra. If you ever make something for someone with your hands, make a meal, you are coming from your heart chakra because that's your arms and your hands are connected to that. And like if you type something to somebody, you write a letter, you paint something, you are coming from your heart chakra. When you're creating something with your hands, it's coming from your heart. Isn't that interesting? I thought it was. That's why I'm sharing it with you. You might be going, oh, I didn't do that. But it was something that I hadn't really considered before, and she spoke about it here. So have you ever experienced having a closed heart? Okay, come on. We've all had moments where we've felt hurt, we've shut down, we've been disappointed. We have those times, and what does that feel like? Terrible, constricted, terrible, loneliness. It's terrible. It's rotten. I don't want to have any of that. And yet we do have things in life that help us have that opportunity. And what do you feel like when you have an open heart? Free, joyful, beautiful. Remember when the first time you were in love, or any time you've been in love, you've, quote, fallen in love? What do you feel like? It doesn't matter if life is good or bad, because everything's good now, right? You're just walking on air, walking on sunshine. You're all happy and joyful. Well, wouldn't you like to live that 24/7 all the time? To live in that state of lovingness? Is that too much to ask for, or is it possible? I think it's possible. However, we need to have the tools in the toolkit to open up the times where we constrict, because it's either we're constricting or we're expanding, open. So she goes on and she talks about the heart. The physical heart is made to give and receive. It takes blood in from the body through one side and pumps it from the other, circulating it through the body. A healthy open heart center does the same with love. It sends love out into the world and receives it in equal measure. It keeps love in circulation. So we have a heart that we want to unlock, and that was the words in the song. Only one key unlocks them both. It's at your command. It's either going to be fear or love. So we're going to look at what we can do. Now, I want to go back to last week, Valentine's Day. Anybody spend time doing the ABCs of your inner critic? Did you notice your inner critic a little more when it showed up and realize that, hey, there she is? And did you give it a name? And did you ask it what it was there for, so that you could learn from it? If you didn't listen or you need to re-listen, you can re-listen to the talk. A part of that service, I asked if you would buy yourself a Valentine's Day card, because you are the world's greatest lover. That's right. You got it. Next week, we're going to go into another thing about this lover, but I have to save something for next week, although I have more about love than probably most subjects. So, how many of you actually did something for yourself on Valentine's Day? Yes? Okay, give yourself a hand. Seriously. You're coming from the heart, you're applauding yourself, your heart chakra is loving you for doing that. It is primary importance in order for us to love everybody right now. You can't love if you don't have love for yourself. It is impossible. Oh, I can love others. Well, sometimes we think that's love I'm doing for somebody because I really love them, but it may be more out of a need for their approval because I don't approve of myself so much. So, self-esteem, self-love. I would love to know, what do you do to self-nurture yourself? I actually have a call once a week with 3 other ministers, and it's called the Radical Self-Care Group. Okay, radical self-care. I want to invite you to become radical self-care people. So what do you do for radical self-care? Tell me, call them out on the sanctuary, cyber sanctuary. What do you do? Massage. That's mine too. What else? Okay, what back here, Marietta? Flowers for yourself. Say, oh, nice. What a concept. I'm going to say something nice to myself. I'm awesome and amazing. I want you to say that. I'm awesome and amazing. That's right. What else? What else is radical self-care? Do what I love to do. Thank you. Do what you love to do. I play pickleball. That's because my radical self-care meditation time. Smile at yourself. Say, hi, cutie. I see you. Right? Instead of like, oh, my God, I see like another line on my face. No. Yeah, I see you. I know who you are behind that mask. Because we're in a masquerade, by the way, in more ways than one. I didn't expect that. Taking a walk, taking a nap, reading a fun book. Find ways to self-nurture. One of the assignments I'm giving you is to make a list of things that you can do as radical self-care. And radical can be as simple as, I'm taking a break. I'm just going to do nothing. Because we have doaholics, I'm one of those. To do nothing. And then not feel guilty about it. Because I'm always thinking, I ought to be doing, because I've got this list a mile long. But it was about being. And I talked about that, about human being versus human doing. So self-care is number 1. And the reason why is there's another book that I want to share with you. It's called Lovability. Lovability by Robert Holden. It's one of the best books on love. I have a few of them that I'll be telling you about. The reason why we have to do this self-love, he says, relationships, and you have a relationship with everybody. You have relationships with everybody and everything. You have a relationship with your body. You have a relationship with money. You have a relationship with food. You have a relationship with your car, your cell phone, your computer. Do you talk to your computer and tell it nice things, or do you get mad at it? What if and money is my friend. I've listened to money talk to me when I went through a process of cleaning that up. So we have relationships in every area of our life. And Robert says, relationships are mirrors. Everybody say that. Relationships are mirrors. He goes on to say, we cannot love another if we do not love ourselves. Every relationship in your life is a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. Okay, listen to that again. Every relationship in your life is a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. We mirror each other. This isn't just a metaphor. Mirroring happens because the nature of reality. Mirroring happens because of the nature of perception. We see things not as they are, but as we are. That is from Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher. Again, we see things, repeat that, we see things not as they are, but as we are. That's huge. Sometimes I look in the mirror, because if I'm looking at you, I'm going, I'm pretty cute. Oh, man. Ever look in the mirror, you see somebody or something you don't like? It's like the day I look in the mirror and go, oh, no. But everything, and it's a big one to take on, but you're big folks here. The high consciousness of lovingness is here in Santa Fe, in Unity Santa Fe. You're here by divine appointment. Every one we see is seen through the filter of our self-awareness. Therefore, how we see ourselves, lovable or unlovable, influences what we see in others. When we meet each other, we also meet ourselves. This is the mirror principle that operates in every one of our relationships. So when I meet Carol, I'm meeting Liz as Carol, right? It can be a little mind expanding, but that's what we're here to do, is to stretch our concepts. We have been taught certain things and way to look at life. But everybody and everything's a mirror. That's why I love Debbie Ford's book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. Because when you see somebody or something you don't like, it's not about them, it's about yourself. And what's his name? Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. also says in the Four Agreements, he talks about this, that we're never seeing, if somebody's talking about you, they're not talking about you, they're talking about themselves. Whenever we're talking about somebody else, I'm really talking about some part of me. It's easier not to have to pay attention to any of this, isn't it? Kind of just go through life as we've been trained. However, we're here to expand and transform our world by doing some conditioning, some different ideas and look at how we do things. So it is important that I love myself, because to the extent I love Liz, is the extent I love you, and you, and you, and you. My whole goal in life is to learn how to love Liz unconditionally. Spirit loves us unconditionally. It doesn't care really what you do or don't do. It just loves because it is love. We often attach the behavior with the person. The person is lovable. The behavior, not so much, right? I can do behaviors not like the behaviors, but I am still lovable. I'm still awesome and amazing. I have some interesting behaviors, to say the least, as we all do, and the idea is I love me anyway. I love myself regardless of what I think, say, do, don't do. And I gotta love my light and my not so light, my lower vibrational selves. Because those parts that we see in others that are low vibrational, mean, angry, cruel, selfish, I gotta own those. Because if I don't own them, they own me. Things that I don't wanna say that I am. My mom, I did some work with her. I couldn't say I'm a victim. I saw her as a doormat, and my dad kind of would walk over her and such. And I had this problem with my mom. So to heal the relationship with my mom, I realized it had a relationship with the victim. And when I tried to look in the mirror and go, I couldn't say victim. I'm a victim? Heck no. Well, guess what? I have a victim beingness. I choose not to live in it, but I had to accept that I can be and have a victim aspect of my being. It's not bad, it's not wrong, it just needs love. So this is the type of work that I'm here to do. The more work I do with me, the more our world shifts, because everything comes from the inside out. So self-love, work on your self-nurturing this week and every day. What can I do to self-nurture myself? Take a walk, take a break, give yourself flowers, whatever it is. Look in the mirror and go, you're cute. And I love you no matter what you do, but do good today. See if you could do good today. whatever, it's about that. So what happens if you have a relationship where you are really hurt or very upset? You come into that relationship where there's closed. You know what it's like. I had a person at the church in Tahoe. She stepped in as she was a financial CEO person of a big company. She knew what she was doing, but she did not, which was not in agreement with the outside bookkeeper. And there was this clash, and it was kind of odd and interesting. And she ended up quitting the church because of it, real quickly. And she lived next door to me. Every time I'd go in and out of my car into my apartment, I felt this closed, like that we were friends, we were becoming friends, but it wasn't happening anymore. And I hurt. And I didn't want to continue feeling that every time I got into my car, walked it out of because there was that thought of that went away. So I was in distress. So there's a practice that I'm going to share with you, and some of you may have already heard of it before, but it is one of my most favorite practices, and I'm going to read this. It's actually the Opono Pono prayer. And if you want another book, you got a book list, Zero Limits by Joe Vitale. He talks about this therapist in Hawaii who would cured a complete ward of criminally insane patients, and he had never even seen them. The story goes that his name was Dr. Hugh Lin, and he explained that he worked at a Hawaii State Hospital for many years. That ward where they kept the criminally insane was so dangerous. The psychologists would quit on a monthly basis. The staff called in or simply quit. People would walk through the ward with their backs against the wall, afraid of being attacked by the patients. It was a terrible place to visit or to work or live. Dr. Len told Dr. Joe Vitale that he never saw patients. He agreed to have an office and to review their files. As he looked at those files, he would work on himself. And as he worked on himself, these patients began to heal. After a few months, patients that had to be shackled were allowed to walk freely. Others who had to be heavily medicated and were getting off their medications, and those that had no chance of ever being released were set free. Joe was in awe. Dr. Len said not only that, but the staff began enjoying coming to work. Absenteeism and turnover disappeared, and they needed less staff because they had less patients. And what happened was they finally closed the prison. Dr. Vitale said, Joe said, "What were you doing within yourself that caused these people to change?" And Dr. Len said, "I was simply healing the part of me that created them." I didn't understand. Dr. Len explained that total responsibility for your life means that everything in your life, simply because it's in your life, is your responsibility. In a literal sense, the entire world is your creation. Were you ready for some heavy-duty stuff today? You must have been, because you showed up. Joe says, "This is tough to swallow. Being responsible for what I say and do is one thing. Being responsible for what everyone in my life says and does is quite another. Yet the truth is, if you take complete responsibility for your life, then everything you see, hear, taste, touch, in any way experience is your responsibility because it is your life. It is in your life." This means, take a breath, that terrorist activity, the president, the economy, anything you experience and don't like is up for you to heal. They don't exist, in a manner of speaking, except as projections from inside of you. The problem isn't with them, it's with you. And to change them, you have to change you. He goes on and says, I know this is tough to grasp, let alone accept or actually live, right? You're all like, that's a lot. I'm lucky if I can be responsible for my own life. He says, blame is far easier than total responsibility. But again, to realize that healing for him and in Opono means loving yourself. If you want to improve your life, you have to heal your life. If you want to cure anyone, even a mentally ill criminal, you do it by healing you. I asked Dr. Lin how he went about healing himself, what he was doing exactly when he looked at those patients' files. He explained, I just kept saying, I'm sorry, I love you, over and over again. That's it? That's it. Turns out that loving yourself is the greatest way to improve yourself. Our world is from the inside out. The 4 statements of Opono, and they can be done in any order. I use, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm going to say each line, and I want you to say that, repeat it after me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Using that mantra, taking anyone or anything that is a challenge, like my neighbor who I was having problems with, I continually would just repeat. Every time I would go into the consciousness of this person and this closed heart of mine that was feeling pain, I would say those words. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you and thank you. I broke up with somebody. We had a year relationship, and it was amiable, but it hurt. I wanted to be in relationship. And so every time I think of her, I'd constrict. I started to say that prayer. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. Anytime, every time you have a critical thought about anything, the economy, the president, the people that you don't agree with that are doing things in the world, that you have complete opposite feelings and thoughts and beliefs about, and you're mad because they're doing things that are not in alignment with what you know. Would you be willing to try to do that work? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. To do it, those words are so simple, but they're an extremely powerful energetic that can shift everything, but it's shifting ourselves. Everything is a projection. If I see something I don't like, can I put that phrase in there? This is a tough assignment, but you showed up, so thank you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. If you don't like the assignment, use that assignment to clear that, because it's energy. We clear the energy. This is how we can love others and ourselves. So you're making your self-nurturing list, and you're doing something that is loving for yourself on a daily basis. And you may have reasons why you don't love yourself. If you are one of those that have a hard time loving yourself, make a list of 30 things that you love about yourself or you like about yourself. This was an assignment my therapist gave me back in time. And I'll give you part 2 next week. And to read that list. In fact, just do it even if you do like yourself. Write a list of 30 things you like about yourself. See how challenging or not challenging that is. What do you like? I like myself. These are the things I love about myself or like about myself. Make a list of 30 things. So, you got your list. You're loving yourself. You're clearing the blocks. Now, receptivity. How well do you receive love? When someone offers to do something for you, give you something, a compliment, do you receive it? How many of you have heard it's better to give than to receive? What a BS, brainwash. It's a belief system that we have been ingrained with. It isn't true. You can't have giving without receiving. And when someone tries to give you something and they refuse it, how does that make you feel? We have to be excellent open receivers. Think about your pets. You ever have a pet that says, "Don't pet me, I'm not worthy"? Don't rub my belly, says the puppy, right? Okay, so we can learn from them. They receive the love. How can we do that for ourselves? I'm lovable, and so are you. Maybe not like my behaviors, but the behavior is not who I am. Each one of us is so lovable. Even people in politics that you don't like. Can you separate their behaviors from the person? This is high-level work, but this is what you're called for. This is what the world needs. Not more judgment, but more love. We'll talk about that with Anita Morjani next week. So, your practice for receiving is to make a list. Maybe you have a gratitude list. I would like to invite you this week to write down, how did I receive today? What did I receive? And you can be as creative as you want, but look at how you're receiving. I received what today? And notice your receptivity. This is an important part of this heart. If I'm not receiving, then I can't give. If I have a block in my receptivity, it's just as bad as when I can't give because I'm blocked because I got some hurt or something closing my heart. I'm going to close with this story. There was a store owner who put up a sign, "Puppies for sale." And pretty soon a little boy came along and he said, "How much are the puppies?" And he said, "Well, they're between $30 and $50. The little boy reached in his pocket and he pulled out some change. He says, I only have $2.37, but can I have a look at them?" The owner smiled, whistled, and out come his dog named Lady with 5 little puppies. And he was ready to pick out his particular puppy, and he noticed that there was one puppy that was lagging far behind, and that little boy went right to him. And he asked the owner what was wrong with him, and he said, well, he had a bad hip socket, and he would always limp in his life. Yet the little boy wanted that one. Now the store owner said, he's not going to be able to jump and play and run, like other dogs. I don't care, I still want him. And I'll give you $2.37, and I'll pay you 50 cents every month until I got him paid for. And still the owner's going, why do you want a dog that's got a limp and is going to have a problem? And the little boy rolled up his pant leg, and he had a twisted, crippled leg with a heavy brace on it. And he said, well, I don't run so well myself, and the little puppy will need someone who understands. The tears welled up in that owner's eyes, and he just said, I just hope, son, that every one of these puppies gets someone who gets to own them with as much love as you do. In order for us to experience this love that I speak of every week, first, we have to give love. To have love, to receive love, first, give yourself to love. Namaste.